Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear friends, colleagues, what I am going to talk to you today is little different than biotechnology. That is my passion. But today I am talking to you about another thing. That is the alternative medicine, herbal medicine, the things that are around you, the things that are in your kitchen. That how can you really safeguard yourself against any of such kind of disease. So, as I said in the beginning, I am the president of National Council for TIB, which is a government body of health ministry. And since I joined almost 5 years back, this organization I took over, we had a vision, and that is I wish to see this discipline as the world's most trusted, ethical, compassionate, respected and admired health system. And I wanted that my Hakims, my healers, traditional healers, they serve humanity with colorblind commitment. They don't look at the pocket of the patient, but they look at the disease of the patient. And they first treat them, and then if they can get a little bit of all this. But I wanted to have knowledgeable, skilled and caring Hakims. And today I can proudly say we have a number of them. They have offered, I have written to the Prime Minister of the country and the health advisor of the country that we have close to 65,000 registered traditional healers in Pakistan, in Hikmat only, in Tabib, what you call it. So you can use the services of them. They are well trained and they can guide the people around them. So first of all, if we want to see the primary healthcare system anywhere in the world, so that is the motto of that is health and well-being. And that, how is it? It has a multi-sectoral policies and action. It empowers people and community. It gives primary care and essential public service functions as the core of integrated health services. When I say integrated health care services, here we come. Here we talk about many different kind of health care systems. So a whole society approach to health and aims ensure the highest possible level of health and well-being and their equitable distribution by focusing on people's needs and preferences. When we say preferences of the individual, what kind of treatment he wants, the families, what kind of treatments they want for their patient, and the communities. And there is that we have to really think about the alternative. Now we call it alternative, but imagine 100 years back there was no allopathy that strong. Everybody was treating themselves with the herbs around them. So that is then, unfortunately, we as a Pakistani, we are import-oriented society. We love imported things. We don't care of the things that are around us. So what we need is that we have to involve this traditional medicine, and that is where are easily available, that easily accessible to the people, and that can be used by the marginalized and underserved people. Our Prime Minister said that he cannot do complete lockdown because of the poor people, poverty that we are facing with. So that is when the people are poor, how can they approach you? You can provide services in the mega city, you have quarantines, this and that. What about the mountains? What about the 2/3 of your community that are living in the countryside? Interior Sindh, Balochistan, and go and see Tharpakar and all that. So you have to have some kind of information for them that how can they treat themselves when they are facing with such kind of a disease or pandemics, if they have to treat them. So a little bit of background of traditional medicine. It is not only for Pakistan. Chinese, I'm saying this because recently Chinese scientists, they came to Pakistan. They had a high-level meeting. They are still in Pakistan. And in one of the meetings, they said in Wuhan, they mainly treated their patient with Chinese medicine. And that is the herbal medicine. So I beg to my own people also that let's think about it. WHO defines herbal medicine as herbs, herbal materials, herbal preparations, and finished herbal product that can be used, and their active ingredients are part of the plants that can be used to cure many diseases. And it is in many countries. In for example, Bhutan, it is called Goso Barikpa. In Kyoto, in Japan, it is Kampo. In Korea, it has its name. So it's in Myanmar, it's in Sri Lanka, it's in Thailand, it's in Ayurveda is very famous in India. when China is there, so everywhere. So let's think about it, and I will be giving you some of the examples. Now, if we want to have a goals of the care of the problem that we are facing with, so number one, we have to prevent complications and we have to optimize quality of life. Unfortunately, I may in few slides be telling you why we are so susceptible to the diseases, the pathogen that is coming. Basically, two major reasons that may be later on coming in. One is antibiotic resistance. We start antibiotic to our children right from the day one. And two, our food habit, obesity. The burgers culture that unfortunately we got it in. It's not only for Pakistan. The world is really facing problem, and they are saying that we are really in grave danger of using this food habit that we are having. So I will be telling you later about this a little bit. So if we want to talk about goals of care, we have to review and agree on management plan. We have to assess key patient characteristics. We have to have ongoing monitoring and support, including many emotional well-beings, their glycemic status, biofeedback, etc., etc. So we have to agree on a management plan. When we say management plan, it should have SMART goals. You know the SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time-bound. If those kind of plan we have, we can really treat our society with all this. So when we talk about traditional medical system, what I was talking to you was about the WHO, World Health Organization. You're all aware of it. They had a very good document on traditional medicine strategy, what they call it, 2002 to 2005. There was a meeting, and I make it quick for you. They had a policy for it. They had a safety, efficacy, and quality assurance of herbal medicine. They had an access issue to it, that who can affordably, easily, with a minimum price can access to it, and rational use, so that everybody knows it. This is the era of personalized medicine. So they should be knowing which individual need what, and when, and how much. Little bit about science, because I have a mix of both things. I'm a scientist by profession, biotechnology. We call it genetic engineer. So do you know that your body as a human, your body is more than half of your body is not human? What I want to say is that your DNA, the total DNA of your body, 43% of the total, human cells are 43% only. Rest, all microbes. You have thousands and millions of microbes in your gut. And same is in plants, and every living organism they have gut, that they save them. They live in symbiotic relationship, and they save them from various kind of diseases also. But when you disturb your microbiome that is in your body, you expose yourself to various kind of diseases like inflammatory bowel disease, Parkinson, cancer drugs, and various things can be, and you can using those microbes, you can have drugs from it, what they call it, bugs as a drug. That is also another thing that we have to really, so when we consume herbs or plants or fruit, in a way we consume a lot of good probiotic for ourselves. I give you another example. Here is the example of apple. An apple carries 100 million bacteria, and that you consume. When you eat one apple, you eat 100 million bacteria with it. That's the probiotic. So that's why an apple a day keeps a doctor away. It's not only that apple, it's the microbe that they have it. So there's a lot of discussion on it. And again, it depends on what kind of apple you are eating, whether it's organic, whether it's polished with some chemical. So you have to be really careful what kind of apple you are eating and what will be the result. Now coming to this pandemic that we are having and the nature that we are having, it's also linked with the biodiversity. And I give you one example of another microorganism, which is Candida auris. That pathogen simultaneously emerge in 3 different continents. And their clades were genetically distant. And this is because of the climate change that we are exposed ourselves now to it. And that is another, someday we can talk about climate change in relation to human health, what kind of impact it has on the human health. Third, whatever we have in the nature that has some importance. And here I give you an example of an ants, what we call it super ants, that can give you next generation antibiotic. Because the present antibiotics are the bacteria, the pathogen have developed resistance to it. So that is that recently scientists have got a very good next generation antibiotic from this ant. So that is that you need to have it. So when we talk about the healthcare system, we need different players, different stakeholders. We need sponsors, people who could really take burden of quality assurance of herbal ingredients and product. That you have to comply with the local regulatory guidelines. You have to ensure quality, ensure good practices of manufacturing, and you have to ensure the quality. And then the herb extract that people are using, that too should have quality. If you are exporting to multiple countries, etc., if you register yourself, so you should be knowing all the international guidelines, local guidelines, and this should be scientific when you use herbal medicine or extract. It's just a guideline that shows how quality system of herbal products are, how you extract, extraction of the herbs, that you can remove the waste from it, the debris from it, and then you can really use it. So now the question is, why herbal medicine? The first thing that I want to tell you is, still 80% of the world population, primarily, specifically in the developing country like Pakistan, are still, using herbal medicine. And still they believe they are on their safety and their efficacy, their cultural acceptability, and they believe that they have lesser side effects as compared to the other systems of medicine. And they can be used for anything, like memory loss, like diabetes, like osteoporosis, like immune and liver disorder. These herbs have cure or treatment or help or, for various kind of disease that you are. And now I give you a little bit data of the global burden of disease, the problem that world is facing, and the present coronavirus has a sort of impact because of that we were having. For example, the one of the disease burden that was lower respiratory infection was one of the cause. This is the paper published in 2016. And today, 4 years down the road, we had a corona, and it mainly impacts respiratory infections. 2 was diarrhea in young children, neonatal preterm birth, HIV, AIDS, and malarias. Though we had found solution to that, but the problem that the world is facing, we still, are the triads of trouble, 3 troubles that I talk. 1, obesity. 2, conflict. 3, mental illness. The race of the humans for getting more and more, the greediness, and that has led to the conflicts, that have led to the wars, and that have caused a lot of problems to the poor people that have in mental illness in sort of competition. So the major problem that we are facing is the changing people's behavior and the circumstances that has direct problem that they have destroyed their immune system and they cannot fight infectious disease like corona. The corona, if you have a very good immune system, you can really still, you can fight with it. And I then now give you an example of a physician, Avicenna. You all may have known it. You can search it again. I got its prize from UNESCO also, Ethics Prize of Avicenna. So what he said, and that is, long ago, almost now, 1200 years ago, he said, most illness, even those which lead the sufferer to the specialist, arise solely from long continued error of diet and regime. 2 things, diet and regime. Your diet that you are consuming, that is the major cause, the diseases that you will be getting in future. Your children, that whatever diet they are consuming today, that will have an impact of his lifespan coming, whether it's diabetes, whether there are other diseases that are there. So, and I give you here another kind of data, that poor diet is linked to 1 in 5 deaths in the world. Every 5 deaths that are there, in 5 deaths, one is somehow directly, indirectly related to the poor diet, the food that we are having. And this you can talk about, obesity. And there are two things that obesity level continue to rise: poverty as well as greed. Two things must take some of the blame. It's not just overeating, but it's not having enough money to buy the right sort of food. There are two things. It's not only overeating or having a lot of meat. It is also that you don't have good money to have a right kind of a food. You go and have fast food, kind of a cheaper kind of food that you think you fill your stomach with. So that is the problem that we are having. You can have, and diabetes caused 1.43 million deaths in 2016 alone. So you call it what in Urdu? 15 lakh people? 14 lakh 30,000 people roughly in 2016. Today it's more than that. It's almost 16 lakh people dies because of diabetes. And that the rise, agar aap pichhle, you take data of 10 years, 31% rise in diabetic patient. 31%. And that is the leading cause of the death in the world that is there. And if you look at the cartoon that I'm showing in this slide, there is a queue for pills and surgery. There is nobody on the line where they tell you about the lifestyle change. So we don't want to change our lifestyle. We are not ready to change ourselves. We just consume more and more of pills and surgery and those kind of things that we are forced with. So for future 2040, the major thing that you will be facing is obesity will be an economic and social burden of the world in future. That is one of the causes that you should be knowing. In the year 2016, nearly 41 million people below age of 5 were obese, were overweight. 41 million people. The obese population within past 40 years has tripled. पिछले 40 सालों में मोटापे के लोग 3 गुना हो गए. And the third thing is obesity is preventable. You can prevent it if you want. So that is that you should be knowing, and there is more data about it that we are having. I just give you one example of the economy of the world that will be that obesity will account for 3% of the world GDP in the value of turn and having an economic impact of the US $2 trillion annually. That will cause you only one thing, that is obesity. One major thing that I want to talk to you was human diet that causes catastrophic damage to the planet also. When I talk about this, you can avoid millions of deaths not only, but you are damaging the planet. And when a billion people in the world, they'd go hungry, and another 2 billion people eat too much. So if that is the thing, the people that are eating too much, obesity, heart diseases, diabetes is their fate, they will get it. And that is, you can also, if you try the unhealthy diet, if you control it, which is responsible for 11 million avoidable premature deaths every year. So you have to think about global food system as a whole. And if I talked about one thing that is in diet, that's beef is the main culprit. And if you think about it, that 5 kilos of grain, only grain, not only the other thing that I'm talking, produce 1 kilo of meat. So, and that 1 kilo, the estimate is that if you have one steak, 30% of that goes to the dustbin. The wastage of the food. So we as a human being really have to think about it. So now finally, I'm talking about the safety of herbal medicine, from prejudice to evidence. 100 years ago, everybody, almost majority of the population, were using natural herb to treat themselves for all kind of diseases. And even today, whatever medicine that you are having, majority, 25% of them, that came from the plant's origin, aspirin, artemisinin, ephedrine. So all of them, they come from, their origin is plants. So the earlier people were using as a whole plant. So the third thing is that Western medicine treatment is not satisfactory because of the adverse drug reaction. People die because of the drug reaction also. So huge data available on this. And the third thing is that the global market for herbal medicine now close to $1 trillion. So that is that you can work on it. Some people believe that these traditional healer hakims They're using, snails, they're using different things. Here I give you one example. The snail that I put it here, the modern medicinal clive that we get from here, it is used, and that is 1,000 times more potent than morphine. And you use it for your operations. And that comes from the advanced cancer stage patients in the allopathic medicine, and the AIDS. When they are in advanced stages, this drug is only used, and that comes from the snail. So if you didn't know it, otherwise if I tell you that you are injecting snail in yourself, you will be, So third thing, you get this Ayurvedic medicine in India, and they say that they have found cure from the herbs for dengue fever. The dengue that you are having in Pakistan too, we are facing this problem. Come on, man, but we don't want to believe it, and they are planning some $10 billion US dollar business on dengue alone from this Ayurveda in 2022. So, and I give you one more example. You may have heard about stem cells, and stem cells that but now in Australia, they are working on a medicinal plant that they are doing tissue engineering and regenerative medicine from plants. There are 2 plant species that they scaffolds, we call it, and they can help you to develop body's tissues and function of your bones, premature bones, and that comes from these plants. And that is, better in some cases in the future would be in this discipline too, that we should be having, and these plants can be used not only in wound healing, in pharmaceuticals, but tissue engineering, developing your cells, and the business now even in next 3-4 years will be $1.5 billion US dollar on this one discipline alone. And I should talk to you a little bit about when we eat plants, it is not only that plants that we are eating, inside the plant, like you have in your gut millions of microorganisms, same is with the plants. So sometimes that microbes that are within the plant, so when you consume the plant, that is probiotic for you, that helps you. So this is endophytic microorganism that we work on, that can provide you phytohormones, that can help you with many things. Here is some of the basics for endophytic microorganisms. You can develop antibiotics from it, antiviral, for corona, for example, anti-cancerous, antioxidants, anti-diabetic agent from it. You can have biofuel. You can have many things from it. It's a slide that you can read it, and you can find another thing. Lastly, I will be talking about a little bit, nowadays people talk about nanobiotechnology or nanotechnology. The being the smallest is the best. So when we talk about all this, my students now work on this also, and we are trying to have some nanomedicine. Specifically, one of our group, international group, we are working to find cure for corona also through nanobiotechnology that we will be using. What is nano? Your human hair is about 100,000 nanometer in diameter. So you imagine how small we are talking about. One hair, the diameter of the hair is 100,000 nanometer. So we talk about 1 nanometer, you understand. And one red blood, one cell, in one drop you have thousands of cells. Within that one cell, it is 8,000 nanometer. Bacteria is 1,000 nanometer. Virus is 100 nanometer, so small. So we talk about it and we work on this. That is in the this century is the nano century. People will be having medicine from it, diagnosis from it, and we are trying to have these medicine from the medicinal plants. And today the business is $75 billion US dollar of the nanomedicine that they are there. This is a simple mechanism of diagnosis and therapy. You can see in the slide that how can we the plants nanotechnology, the novel approach that we have published this paper. One of my students who is working in China now, we published this and we have all the details. How can we get nano medicine from the plants? Again, this can work in antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral, anti-cancer, anti-leishmanial, you name it. You will find solution to the problems, inshallah. And again, you can work in the environment, biodegradation and all other issues that we will be doing that. So this is very important. And why is it important? This herbal, if you look at the data that we are having internationally, if you look at the allopathic growth of international medicine growth, it is 3% per year. If you look at the herbal growth, it is 5% per year. So in Pakistan, I'm advocating that let's put some resources in it and let's work on it to have a very good product that we can even export it. Allah has blessed us with a beautiful country that we have, and that's why we have all kind of very good plants, species, animal, diversity of humans, and we have every kind of thing. So what we need is we have to get benefit of it. Now, in the last few slides, I should talk to you about the antibiotic resistant bacteria. And that is why now this corona also has one of the problem for the world, that the newborns resisting standard treatment that we are having problems. 200,000 newborns die each year because of the infection and because they don't respond to antibiotics. The resistance that the microbes have got it. So that is where we have to really think about, on one side, reduction of antibiotic, another side, finding new fifth generation antibiotics that can, help us in develop. So here we use two English words for antibiotics. One is excess and excess. Excess, ACCESS. Few people, they are poor, they don't have access to antibiotic. Others have too much money and they overuse the antibiotic. So excess and excess, that is where we have problem. And two, we use antibiotic everywhere. In the animals, the milk that we are getting, the food that we are getting, the vegetables that we are getting. We are spraying different kind of, pest killers and all this. So there is where unknowingly we are using a lot of, antibiotic that and hormones and different kind of thing that we really. It's a mechanism here in this slide we are showing. You can later on see it. What is the circle of how from food, from chicken, from even tomatoes, from animals' milk, etc. How is this circulated? I should also talk about a little bit about diabetes. One of my audiences here was talking about this, that I give you one example, probably it's the next slide. No, it's a slide back after this. That it's really diabetic drugs ride a bumpy road. We are in problem. And if you look at here, the data I'm showing to you, that in 15 years down the road, we will be having 592 million people diabetes. And that if you look at the data I have shown in this slide, it is from Eurasia, North America to South America, South Asia. Look at the percent that the people that they will be diabetes. And here I show you a drug. This drug was used for many years, approved by FDA for diabetes. But here we come and we came to know that because of this drug, you were curing diabetes on one side, but you were getting heart failure and stroke because of it. And that many people died because of this drug. And this was then removed from the shops. So there is that you should be knowing the problem that we are facing in the world. And here is some kind of data, how this diabetes is going in the future, what kind of humans population will be facing diabetes. Refugees, 1 million refugees live with diabetes in the world. 1 million people. 3 million internally displaced people that come because of climate or other, they are internally displaced, they are diabetes. 31 million new people displaced due to conflict and disasters, diabetes, etc., etc. So this is a problem that we are. I give you one traditional medicine, cannabis, bhang. We all, China, they were using it 10,000 years ago. They were using this. Unfortunately, now internationally, they're getting a lot of drug out of it. But when we talk about it, people laugh at that we are talking about something, to sleep. So in our shrines, etc., the people were using it. And look at this. This has aphrodisiac properties. It has a lot of good things out of it. Even you can make carpets out of the cannabis. And we have everywhere down the road in Islamabad, even right from here, everywhere. But we don't use it because, again, we are import-oriented society. We don't have anything indigenous. We really don't work properly. So we talk about the future perspective. It's more acceptable. Now we have to integrate the modern technology like biotechnology, cell culture, etc. to it, and we have to address the modern diseases that we are facing it. We should have preventive medicines out of it, and that is how it can work. It is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. So I started with change and I finished with change, and I expect that the last slide, that is, health does not always come from medicine. Most of the time it comes from peace of mind, peace in the heart, peace of the soul. It comes from the laughter and love. You don't need medicine, you need laughter and you need love. So the biggest concern for any organization should be when their most passionate people become quiet. Let's speak, let's talk. And thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It was a pleasure to address you online, and I will ask my colleagues that they make a system that I could answer your questions also in future. If there was some mechanism, my friends were advising me to have some kind of a channel. So we will be having your questions and answers. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.